Eat, Drink, DFW from the Dallas Morning News is made possible by Central Market.
Hey, North Texas food fans, it's time for another episode of Eat, Drink, DFW from the Dallas Morning News. Every week, our food staff loves to dig into the local restaurant scene, talk about food and drink trends, and those things that make North Texas, North Texas. This is Anna Butler. I'm the News' food and events editor. This week, it's all about 2025, what's hot, what's not, and what restaurants are opening this year. So stick around. You won't want to miss this.
Central Market is really into food, like fish flown in so fresh it still has jet lag into food. Our sourdough starter has been around since grunge was a thing into food. We're talking more prime cuts than a greatest hits album into food. Central Market is really into food. If you are too, then we're the HQ for you. Whether you're a make every recipe in the cookbook foodie or a my favorite recipe is reheat type who just digs the delectable, no place makes every day more delicious like Central Market. Really into food. Shop now at centralmarket.com.
For the latest food and restaurant news, visit dallasnews.com/food. And we'd love to hear from you. If you have any food questions, a need for restaurant ideas, or just want to chat with the Dallas Morning News food team, email us at eatdrink@dallasnews.com. I am joined by our food writers, Claire Baller, Sarah Blaskovich, and Imelda Garcia. We are back after a brief hiatus, and we are ready for the new year. We hope you are too, because 2025 is expected to be a year packed with restaurant openings, and big ones at that, in Dallas-Fort Worth. Sarah, talk to us about some of the ones you're most excited about.
Yeah, sure. I made a list of 19 exciting restaurants opening in Dallas-Fort Worth in 2025, and that's a bigger number than I hoped to put on a list, but I considered about 30 restaurants for this list, and I made well over 50 phone calls to try to figure out what should go on the list. So this is a big project I do at the end of every calendar year, and it helps me get interested in what the trends will be in 2025 in Dallas-Fort Worth. But I think it also, maybe more importantly, helps our readers get a handle on what's happening in the coming months. So on this list of 19 restaurants, I'd like to talk about 3 that I think are really exciting. And then I'll point everybody to dallasnews.com/food if you want to read all of those. You also hopefully saw it in the newspaper on Friday, January 3rd, where this was the guide cover. And that's always a fun one for me. So first, the most mysterious. I'll give a couple of superlatives here. The most mysterious is the Bread Club.
That was not my superlative in high school.
The most mysterious?
Mine was most likely to be president of the PTA. Which is like, you love small scale politics and you're probably pretty organized.
Anna, that so tracks, except that you don't have children.
No, I have a dog, which again, not the same thing, but
it's pretty close.
Pretty close.
A beagle, that's like a teenager all
yeah.
the time. Anyways, okay, so most mysterious restaurant is?
Most mysterious restaurant is the Bread Club at the Quad in Uptown.
Oh, the Quad has so many things opening this year.
It does, and it's something everyone should be paying attention to in 2025. So the Quad is what we used to know as the Quadrangle. The artist formerly known as the Quadrangle in Uptown Dallas.
Acquired by Stream, which is a Dallas-based real estate company. It was thought of as one of the first ever mixed-use developments in all of Dallas, actually.
What are the cross streets for the Quad? I think I know where it is. In my mind, it's like right off Cedar Springs.
It's exactly right off Cedar Springs at Ruth and Howell. My better delineation here is if anybody remembers the Ginger Man Pub, which has since been bulldozed, the Quad is right next to where the old Ginger Man used to be.
Okay.
Theater 3 is in that development. The thing about the Quad is there are new buildings and old buildings, but the reason we care today is because there are 5 brand new standalone restaurant buildings. They all look kind of similar. They have a black metal frame on the outside, and none of them are attached to any of the others. So like this little village of 5 restaurants sprung up in the middle of what the cool kids are now calling the Quad. The Bread Club, our mysterious bakery, is one of them. And the Bread Club is going to be a bakery, and that's all we know. We know that they're going to hire somebody important, or maybe they already have. And we know that it is owned and run by the brothers who own Namo and Bar Colette. They are from LA, and they said they grew up eating great bread, can't find great bread in Dallas, and say this will be unlike any other bakery in Dallas, which is really saying something because we have bread here. We have better bread than we did 10 years ago, and they still think this place is nothing like what we've seen. Time will tell.
Is this the one that they're framing almost as fast casual too, where it'll be a bakery and also a market?
I don't know. It's a great question, and I've asked them 47 questions about it, and it's been pretty non-committal so far. This is why it's mysterious. I do believe them that the Bread Club will be important, but I don't know enough to explain much more than this.
And so you don't know who lead baker's going to be.
I asked, but they haven't told me. That's right.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, these brothers also own a second restaurant in the Quad. So 2 of these 5. Mamani is the name of that restaurant. It is another of my 19 most exciting restaurants of 2025. And Mamani is going to be a French restaurant with an Italian accent. That's kind of the moniker. Christophe Delillis, who has been making food at Bar Colette, is in charge of this new restaurant. It will be high-end, probably exciting, probably expensive. It's a place I can't wait to know more about.
Well, I'm excited because the Bread Club, even in all of its mystery, means it's okay for us to eat bread again. I just felt like there was a really long time, a big trend away from carbs. And I'm like, let's lean into this. 2025, maybe it's the year of bread.
Yes, I think you're right, Anna. Okay, so we've talked a little about the Quad, and there's a lot of exciting things happening there. Another restaurant I want to mention that I'm excited about is called Dung de Ville in Fort Worth. Now, this word is D-U-O-N-G, and then the word de Ville, like a Cadillac Coupe de Ville. This restaurant comes from a Vietnamese chef in Fort Worth who is a full-time teacher. And in her spare time, she runs a Vietnamese grocery called Hao's, which is her first name, Hao. She has the opportunity in 2025 to open a restaurant on land owned by a family that owns Cadillac car dealerships in Fort Worth.
My gosh.
Wow.
Yes. And so now this name Dung de Ville is in part because of that Cadillac connection, but there's more than that. Her dad died when she was 12 and he had just bought himself a Cadillac de Ville. That car kind of became a symbol of her dad. And so she says Dung de Ville is going to be a traditional Vietnamese restaurant. They're making dumplings in-house, and she just wants it to be a family place that honors her family. And I love it.
That's so sweet.
I think this is great, but you have a long list, Sarah. Tell us more, please.
Okay, I'll give you one more, and then I'm curious what you guys are interested in. A little bit of breaking news here. An Italian cafe called Cafe Luca is going to open on Travis Street in Dallas. Now, if this name rings a bell, it's because Cafe Luca was supposed to open next door to Barsotti's on Oaklawn Avenue from owner Julian Barsatti and former Dallas Cowboys coach Jason Garrett. Are we remembering this?
Yes.
The breaking news piece here is that Cafe Luca is not going next to Barsotti's. It is going in Grange Hall, which this is a big deal for a certain part of people in Dallas. So the restaurant in Grange Hall is this kind of beloved lunch-only fancy schmancy spot. Really great service, good food, small menu. And it's attached to this super beautiful boutique. Well, the man who owns the boutique loves the retail side of it and was interested in bringing Julian Barsatti on to change up the restaurant a little bit. The chef is going to stay, and Julian Barsatti then will turn it into like an all-day cafe. The reason I think why this is especially exciting, even after all that breaking news, is that Grange Hall is really close to the Katy Trail. And Grange Hall is really close to the Auberge Hotel that's going to open at Knox and Travis and change the face of that part of Dallas. If you haven't driven by Knox Street in a while, there's a big hole in the ground with a lot of construction. And Grange Hall is like front row seat to all that brand new development. And so this cafe will be Katy Trail adjacent. It will be near all these fancy restaurants and shops. It will be near this new hotel in what will be unquestionably the it spot in Dallas.
The reason I'm excited about it too is Grange Hall is single level. And as much as I love a lot of the change happening, especially on the Knox side of Knox Henderson, it's going vertical. And I think that warehousey feel was always really special and felt a little bit different than other parts of Dallas or distinct from uptown or downtown. And so I'm glad to know that something is going in there because I've been waiting for maybe someone to come in and try to swoop that land out from somebody else. The other reason I'm excited about this is I actually love Grange Hall. Not that I am someone who can dine there regularly. It is expensive, but it reminds me of ABC Carpet and Home in New York, where it's just like the most beautifully and thoughtfully curated collection of things. It's just so pretty to go in there. And the food was always good too. It's one of those places that you feel better when you walk into. And I'm excited to see what Julian could do with this space.
Sarah, I'm sure people listening are wondering, how do you hear about most of these? How are you finding out about a lot of these new restaurants that there are still pretty sparse details on?
Yes, it feels like my life's work, Claire. I don't know. I'm thinking about this every week. I'm thinking about it now in January for next year's. But more specifically, to answer your question, I am asking sources constantly. And then again at the end of the year, whatever they know. What are you working on? What are your friends working on? I send dozens of emails that then turn into these 50 interviews that turn into, digging. And then I come up with a list, basically. Then I parse through that list. Is it geographically diverse? Is it culinarily diverse? Is it high and low and stuff in between? Is there too much of one thing? We saw so much American food in 2024 and so much good American food, actually. But there were some restaurants on last year's list that I ended up taking off because we don't need a list with 9 burgers. We need 2 places with burgers, and then we also want different types of cuisine. So I'm also looking for trends as I put this list together. It's a huge project, Claire. I love it and I hate it all at the same time. And it stretches who I know and what secrets I think they'll tell me. I'll also say that I lean on you guys too. What have you reported on what's coming? What do you know that I don't know? And so it just involves months of asking questions and listening.
Speaking of trends, looking at all the data you had that you used for this list, what have you noticed for this year? Are there certain trends that you saw that jumped out at you?
Yeah, there's one that I'm really excited about, which is this all-day eating idea, the all-day cafe, if you want the rhyme. So, and Cafe Luca, which we just talked about, is the perfect example. Instead of being a lunch spot only or being a lunch and dinner spot, they're going to do coffee in the morning, Italian pastries. They're going to have Italian food at lunch and at dinner time. And one thing that makes me really excited about an all-day cafe is that COVID killed the all-day food scene in general. We just saw that restaurants decided to be only open at dinner or only open Wednesday through Saturday, let's say. And 2025 is seeing a reversal of that. And it is about time as we come up on the 5-year anniversary of COVID. Another example of an all-day cafe is Frenchie at Preston Center. I didn't mention it before, but this is the group behind Georgie and La Belle Bouquet and many others. They're opening a casual-ish French cafe that's going to open for coffee in the morning and then stay open all day long for some French classics. And that's exciting. They could have just done lunch and dinner, and they chose not to.
And that one's family friendly too, which I think is also exciting. I think it's easy for us to kind of gravitate towards some of like the fine dining things where you're like, I don't know if I want to bring my child to this, or it feels expensive for that. But Frenchie is one of those ones where it's like, yes, kids welcome. Please bring them on.
Now I want to hear from you guys. As we look into 2025, where do you want to eat? Either on this list or on your own list?
Speaking of coffee, I have a great place that will open in 2025. Do you remember this Cafecito? This pop-up
Yes.
all over DFW selling nostalgia snacks like Gansito, Paleta Payaso, all the snacks that we Mexican kids used to eat, they make it coffee. So it's a great idea. Brittany Huerca is the owner, and her long dream was to open a shop in Pleasant Grove where there's no Starbucks. The nearest Starbucks is 6 miles away from the high school.
I love this.
Yeah, so her dream was to open this store to give the youth some place to work, to eat, and to hang out. And I think this is something great, not only for her, but for the whole community over there. Yeah, I love it. What about you, Claire?
Sarah, this is a spot that's on your list that I'm really excited about. It's Flamant from the team behind Rye and Apothecary. They've been talking about opening something for a while to replace their original restaurant, Rye, that they opened in downtown McKinney that burned down. They have said that they are committed to going back to the suburbs. You know, they opened their second Rye location on Lower Greenville. Then they opened their cocktail bar next door, Apothecary, on Lower Greenville. I think you'd see a lot of people who found success in that area decide to just camp out there, but they are not doing that. And I think, first of all, that's really cool. So they're opening Flamant in Plano, and everything they do is pretty interesting. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what this restaurant shapes up to be.
I agree, Claire. And not only is it in Plano, it is in the far-flung corner of Plano that's really close to Frisco and the Colony. So Flamant is going to be at the boardwalk at Granite Park, which is this cute little development that looks over a little man-made pond with like a boardwalk style thing with these like beach chairs near it. And so that's at 121 and the Tollway, way up there, you know, for those of us who live in Dallas. But I've said a bunch of times, I think they make serious food, but they don't take themselves too seriously. And I think that will really play well in a place like Plano, Frisco, the Colony, where you've got folks who are willing to spend a little bit of money, but they do want interesting, good food.
My favorite is something that brings me back to high school. I was obsessed with Top Chef, and Casey Thompson, who was a runner-up on Top Chef in 2007, is going to be the executive chef at a new restaurant called Duchess at the Nobleman Hotel, which hasn't yet opened in Fort Worth. And Fort Worth has done an exceptional job over the past several years of bringing I don't know. Sometimes I have these connotations in my head of hotel food, and then I'm like, this is going to be overpriced and not good. But Fort Worth bucks that every single chance that it gets. But Casey also cooked at the Mansion, which loves to try to buck that too.
Yeah, I love that you said buck that. It just made me think of like Texas, analogies or something. Because she's making fancy Texas food. Like what they've got on the menu here is boar chili, beef carpaccio ciabatta, chicken croquettes, red snapper, stuff that you can get in or around Texas for a Texas audience. And Fort Worth feels so deliciously Texas to me. Taylor Sheridan has put parts of Fort Worth on TV in a huge way, but it's always been our Western sibling. And this restaurant, Duchess, seems to fit right into Fort Worth.
I love that you hit on the Texas-ness of this whole menu, because I do think one of the big things for 2025 are going to be more locally sourced things. Some of that might be feedback based on Michelin. Some of it might not be. But I think that's one of the things we've been staring down the barrel of in Dallas-Fort Worth is bringing things in, that farm-to-table feel without it being, I don't know, the early 2000s farm-to-table feel. But Claire, you had a call out to some of our readers for ins and outs for 2025 dining. You had some of your own, but you also asked people what theirs might be when they're looking into the new year.
I did, and people had some pretty passionate feedback. And this call out was intended to give people a space to kind of share what they want to see more of and what they want to see less of. One of the things certainly was locally sourced food. And I think that is spot on. I think that's one of my expectations for this year as well, of something that we'll see more of. And I think you're right, Anna, that I think Michelin will have something to do with that. The fact that we know Michelin pays attention to restaurants that are sourcing locally. I think we've already seen a lot of locally sourced food, but it typically is pretty non-specific. I think we're going to see it start getting much more specific with restaurants calling out particular farms and makers. As for other ins that I heard from readers, smaller menus was a very common answer. I think people are kind of over the selection fatigue that you can get when you're at a restaurant that just has kind of a rambling menu, and it can be hard to know what they think they're actually great at making.
I feel so strongly about this, and I'm thrilled that readers said something, Claire, because I've talked to a lot of restaurateurs who say we have so many good things, it's hard to take them off. My challenge to them is I don't think every restaurant has so many good things. I think they have a greatest hits smaller list of great, great, great things. And why isn't that the menu?
And I think this calls for a specialty restaurant kind of thing, like you go to that place for that sandwich and it's the best.
I went to Pillar finally, and I will say that was a thoughtful, well-curated, edited menu. I knew everything I would order there with confidence wouldn't be on that menu if you weren't confident in that dish if you're a chef. So I ordered the shrimp and grits, which I don't think any of us had had before, and it was absolutely delicious. But I just say that because I'm like, you don't put shrimp and grits on a menu anywhere remotely even Southern adjacent if it's not going to be good. And the grits were creamy, and there was this really great sauce with it, and it was absolutely fantastic.
So some other ins that I heard from readers were printed menus. People are over the QR code menu.
Oh, yes.
I'm in that camp as well. More health conscious dishes. What I heard from some people was health conscious dishes that aren't in your face trying to be healthy, but they just are, if that makes sense.
It does. I love that.
Moody, intimate lighting. There are people who are over the not pleasant light in restaurants, and also too loud of music.
Wait, they think that there's too much light or not enough light?
Too much light.
Oh, man.
Not enough mood.
I'm shocked by that because every time I go someplace, there is somebody with their flashlight camera out.
I cannot tell you how much I hate eating in the dark. So when I go to a movie like Alamo Drafthouse or something, I love Alamo Drafthouse. I actually think their food can be good, but I will never order a salad because there are certain things that you need to know what's on the fork. And I do think that some restaurants get too dark.
I totally agree with you. That's interesting, Claire, that some are too light.
This is what the readers want.
We're not going to be able to make anybody happy, I think is what we're learning.
As for some other outs, big portion sizes, concepts that imitate other cities overtly. Feedback that I heard was just be you and make something for Dallas. How about that?
Oh, wow.
Instead of trying to be like Chicago or New York.
I can think of several examples of that.
I think these in and out trends are also kind of following this rolling back of the COVID era.
Yes, which so many people were ready to be done with COVID 6 months, 12 months after it was over. And we all know from a health perspective, from a business perspective, That couldn't possibly happen. And I still write about restaurants, I know you guys do too, that closed because of aftershocks of what happened during COVID. And we're talking 4 and 5 years later. So the idea, Claire, that we're finally actually turning the page or looking in a different book is major, because this wasn't something that could happen months or even a few years after March 2020.
What's out for you this year, Sarah?
I have one major out, and this is like not trendy. I've read so many people's lists of what they think is in and out, and this is not on anybody's. Steak is out, you guys. So here's the deal. We make a pretty good steak at my house for a pretty reasonable price. I've almost never had a steak in a restaurant that is wildly better than the one that we can make at our house. As I watch restaurants open, which is a huge part of what I do, I'm watching restaurants have a whole steak section on their menu when they're trying to be something else. I understand that you do want somebody's $99 for a well-cooked steak. I know that they can do that at home for a third of the price, and I just beg diners to get one of the many other wonderful things on that menu besides a steak. Those other items take so much more care and thought. They are actually recipes. You know, that steak, if it's a beautiful cut of meat, they are putting salt and pepper on it and cooking it well. Like I said, I'm no chef, and we can do that at my house. So steak is out, and high protein meals without a lot of meat are in. I'm with that reader who said, you know, we want healthy food that doesn't scream healthy food. There's so many ways to do that, and chefs are so smart with ingredients. There is protein in grains and in vegetables, and I want those to be the star on my dish instead of that steak.
This is a hot take.
I feel so strongly about it, and I love steak. Can we stop ordering it at restaurants? It is not the best thing it's not the 5th best thing on the menu.
In Texas.
I know. Yeah. At me if you guys want to. I'm S. Blaskovich at dallasnews.com. You're welcome to email me. I'll have you over. We can have a steak. It'll be $30.
Imelda, do you have any ins and outs?
Actually, just in. I think all the menus that scream to you affordable is going to be a success this year because everybody's like looking for the best value for their money. I mean, everything is so expensive, and I'm with you. I mean, I can make the steak at home, so why do I have to pay that much, you know?
I'm really hopeful about that too, Imelda, because we all bore the brunt of double-digit inflation percentage increases. Yeah. And the forecast is single-digit inflation percentage increases in 2025. Time will tell, but the idea is that if costs go up, they go up in a smaller way than they have so dramatically in the past year or two. And man, I feel the burn. You know, we might be going to a restaurant once a week instead of twice a week, specifically for that reason. And I know consumers out there are feeling the same way.
Not to be a Debbie Downer, but I do think we should be mentally prepping for what could happen with restaurants that are currently bracing themselves for potentially even higher operating costs for them due to a whole slew of factors of things that could happen this year. And unfortunately, when restaurant operating costs go up,
guess what?
Price goes up also. So I think that will be really interesting to see how that plays out. We know consumers want and need more affordable options. We also know that restaurants are probably going to have to start making some tough decisions on how they operate if things do get a bit more expensive for them, which I think we might see by way of smaller menus and maybe more thoughtful dishes that don't use the most expensive whatever, you know, which actually could end up making things a little bit cheaper for us.
And now that you are talking about a possible crisis in the restaurant industry, think about this. Now you can ask to your Alexa or to your whatever thing you are using, how can I make whatever restaurant meal you want? And artificial intelligence is going to give you all the list of ingredients, how to cook it, and you can do it at home now.
I have one more hope for 2025, and that is when we spend big money on restaurants, I would love to see the resurgence of the maitre d'-like person. This doesn't have to be an actual maitre d'. It can be an owner. It can be a chef. The person at the front of the restaurant who makes you feel like you are welcome there and who becomes a warm and friendly face. And this is inspired completely by the passing of Al Burnett. He was the quintessential guy at the front of the restaurant. And with Michelin in town and watching us, I want to feel special in that place. And I don't think Dallas restaurants do it that well.
You can read Sarah and Claire's full stories about the most exciting restaurant and bar openings of 2025 and restaurants in and out by visiting dallasnews.com/food. And Sarah, I'm going to tell you why we can't cook steaks at my house anymore.
Oh no, why?
I will be able to tell you a little bit more right after this.
Central Market is really into food. Like when we say cheese, it's in 12 languages into food. Butchers, bakers, and sushi roll makers into food. We're talking so obsessive about quality you can shop blindfolded into food. Central Market is really into food. If you are too, then let us turn your shopping list into a treasure map. Get inspired, get adventurous, or just get a chef-made dinner when you've got more taste buds than time. No place makes every meal more amazing like Central Market. Really into food. Shop now at centralmarket.com.
Welcome back. I know everybody has been waiting with bated breath to hear my steak story.
Yeah, I want to know everything. Yeah.
You're not ready for it, Imelda.
Oh, God.
That's because there was a fire at my house on Sunday, December 28th.
No.
Yes.
You okay?
I'm totally fine. I was in the midst of cooking a $60 steak from Italy that was on sale for 40%. I don't know how to do percentage math. It was a weakness of mine in the 5th grade, but I was mid-cooking it. I was making homemade French fries, like shoestring fries. My boyfriend had gotten me a mandolin for Christmas, and all of a sudden a fire starts in the back of the oven. So I'm like, I went to culinary school. They train you how to put out fires.
Okay.
I cooked in restaurants. They're like, absolutely no water if there's grease. And it's like, this is not a grease fire. This has nothing to do with me cooking. The fire department had to come.
Oh, no.
I pulled the
Wow.
stove away from the wall. So absolutely zero damage to where I live. But they were like, your oven shorted. So it's an electric oven. I wish I could say I had a gas stove. I do not. And the timer panel, the clock panel, shorted and it burst into flames while I was cooking. And luckily I was home.
Yeah.
And the firefighters were like, is she in shock? And my boyfriend's like, she's not in shock. She just knows how to handle this. And I'm going around my house being like, I need to blow out candles because I have fire elsewhere in the house on purpose. Because I'm like, just like, this sucks. And like, this is such an expensive steak. And I was just so upset. One of the firefighters left an axe at my house. So I got this like great leave behind. I did return it because I'm too honest.
No, that's a souvenir.
Everybody's like, I'm glad that you got that. And I was like, I took it back to him. I left it outside of the fire department in Lakewood. Then I found their phone number, their landline. And I was like, hey, I left this outside and I'm so worried someone's going to commit a crime with it. And they were like, why are you so worried about this?
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
your prints were on that axe.
I
I watched
know.
too many true crime documentaries.
Exactly.
You could get yourself into trouble there. I'm glad you called them.
Yeah, someone was implying that it was like a leave behind, so one of the firefighters could like come back to get it. And
Yeah,
I was like, I'm literally
I
cooking,
love
like,
that.
a great meal for someone else right now. But shoot your shot with that axe, man.
Yeah, that's the Hallmark Christmas movie version, is that the firefighter comes back. Anna is happy with her boyfriend.
Yes.
She's not looking for a firefighter.
I'm also, though, now looking for a stove/oven combination.
Were your steaks a total loss?
Great
it was
question.
upsetting because it ended up being medium well.
This is amazing.
It was great. And so the firefighters were like, you have to go cook this. Just like take it to his house. But it was,
Well, let me say that you got all that bad stuff out before the end of the year. You can enter 2025, with a clean slate.
and a clean kitchen.
So, Anna, but how did you put away a fire like that? I mean, if that was my home, I was like running, I would be like running from there.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So the first tip obviously is probably prevention. So you need to, if you're ever deep frying or something like that, you need to have a thermometer. You need to be checking to make sure that things are the temperature they're supposed to be. You also need to make sure if you're cooking within your oven that it's calibrated correctly. There are different ways to do that. I would just YouTube it because it's different for every oven. However, if you have any oil anywhere in a dish, and that's most things that you're going to be cooking on a stove, never, ever, ever try to put out the fire with water. It will make it either spread. If you spill it out of there, it'll just erupt further into flames. I also clean my oven regularly and the stove regularly. You don't want grease to build up. It's recommended to do it once a month. Most people maybe do it once a year. I would do it more often if you cook, especially at high temperatures.
Question though, as someone who's never put out a kitchen fire, thank God, if you take your kitchen towel and put it on a fire, I feel as though the towel will just catch fire.
You might need a bigger towel. You just need something that will suffocate it. The easiest expedient for any of this is keeping a fire extinguisher in your home.
You know what's funny is my husband got what's called a fire blanket
Oh yeah,
from my mom for Christmas. And he opened it up with a little of like, why would I need this? And my mom was like, well, you're the grill guy. Put it outside by the grill. And we have a grill with like the little doors underneath it. And it was just yesterday that I like stuck it in the side door and said out loud, this fire blanket is down here. And that's what we need. Anna, as you're explaining all of this, you need a extinguisher or a fire blanket.
Yes, a fire blanket, something with, you probably want a little bit of size or weight depending on the size of the fire. I was like, it's any fire spreads if it has oxygen still.
Got it. I'm so glad you're here.
I wasn't worried the whole time. I was annoyed. So I was like, you need to tell them on the phone that everything is under control and it's fine. I just cannot do it myself.
This is where Anna tells us that she moonlights as a volunteer firefighter.
Yeah,
I would
weekends.
love that. Because I will say, I do think I talk about liking fire more than most people do.
Yeah, you do. I mean, there was a slight delight in some of this.
There was until there wasn't, I was like, I really wanted to flip my steak and just keep the stove on, but I would like obviously turn them off immediately.
I love that you were worried about your steaks.
I was so worried about the
God,
steaks.
no.
And I also was so happy when the firefighters were like, this wasn't you. And I was like, thank you. I know it wasn't.
Well, I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah.
Let's make it a great year. No fires, okay?
No fires in 2025. So that is all the time that we have for today. Again, you can reach out to us to share your food thoughts and questions by emailing us at eatdrink@dallasnews.com. And don't forget to visit dallasnews.com to keep up with all of our work. This show is produced by Julie Fisk. To catch up on every episode of this show and hear more from our newsroom, just follow the Dallas Morning News wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, please rate the show and leave a review. Find links to all of our work at dallasnews.com/listen. You'll also find a special membership offer there. For the news, I'm Anna Butler. We appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Eat, Drink, DFW from the Dallas Morning News is made possible by Central Market.